Let me start by asking you a question. Where do you file your business stuff? Do you have a structured filing system on your computer? And do you use your downloads folder on your computer? Do you file in the cloud on Google Drive or on OneDrive or Dropbox? Do you file stuff in your email? Do you have a notes app on your phone? Do you use something like Trello or Evernote or Notion? Do you have account software with your invoices in? Do you use Canva for your design stuff? Do you use AI and have lots of conversations and things stored in there? Do you store bookmarks on your browser? Do you have a notebook on your desk or a pile of papers on your desk? We have stuff all over the place. So my next question for you is, if you need to find something that you filed a month ago, how confident are you that you'd be able to find it? And how confident are you that you'd be able to find it efficiently and just go and put your finger on it? How about something that you filed 6 months ago? Are you going to have that, well, I know I filed it somewhere, but you can't quite put your finger on it very easily? Now, the only way this gets better is if we actually stop and we think about creating a structured filing system. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, I'm Sarah and I'm the Office Fixer, and I'm here to help you create a business that feels calmer, more organised and more manageable. So to be honest, I hadn't ever really taught filing and information storage as part of my teaching systems. It's not something I'd really given a lot of thought to, and I'm not sure why, if I'm honest. It was only when I had a conversation with my sister just a handful of weeks ago, and she was saying about her filing being in a bit of a mess because she's used different things over the years. So she's got some stuff on Evernote, she's got some stuff on Apple Note, and she tried different sort of methodologies over the years. So over the last handful of years, she's gathered all this information, but now it's all in a bit of a mess and she's not really sure where to find stuff and how to sort of go forward with it all. And that's when it got me thinking about filing and information storage. And really I thought, well, my own isn't that brilliant. I have recently just bought a new laptop and I haven't got the Microsoft suite on here. So everything that was trying to open in Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel can no longer open. So I've had to move over to Google Docs and Google Sheets. And so I've started a new filing system on Google Drive. So it's really been a good time to go, well, okay, let's kind of set this up properly. And already I feel like it's got in a bit of a mess. So this conversation with my sister and thinking about the fact that information storage should be part of the business journey that I teach, it's given me time to sit back and think about it. And the problem we have is that we file information all the time and we just create files as we need them. And so the information sort of gradually grows and grows and the system evolves, but we've never really thought about the overall structure of it. So a successful information system, I think a success sign would be that you're able to say, well, I know where everything goes and I can find anything that I need. And it doesn't have to be a perfect folder structure. What is a perfect folder structure? It's going to be different for all of us. We all have different businesses, but we all have brains that work in different ways. And I think that's the key. And that to start from scratch and create a filing system that works with the logic of your brain is a great opportunity. So we don't need to be renaming every file that we've created over the past decade. And we don't need to be putting everything into one piece of software. So different bits of information will need different tools. So a password manager, for example, to store your passwords, your accounting software, we all need now, excuse me, I've got an itch, to store all your accounts information. And then Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, however you store your documentation. And then if you're using a project management tool or something like Trello or Notion, what matters is that each type of information has an agreed home. So the first step to sorting out your filing system, your information storage system, is to make the invisible visible. So as I say, you now don't have a bank of filing cabinets on your wall. It's all hidden on your computer and easy to not see what you've got. So we need to now do a bit of an audit to list all the storage places that we use. So as I've said, your Google Drives, your email inbox, your notes, your book, your notebooks on your desk. If you've got any information stored in specific platforms like course platforms or external drives, or so make a list of all these different places where you've got your information. And then you need to decide where each type of information belongs. And this needs to be an obvious place. Where does my marketing content need to go? Where does my important client documents need to go? And it needs to be one obvious place for each type of documentation. So you can test this out by asking yourself, if I needed this in 6 months' time, where would I look first? So where do you think the obvious place that you would go to look for this? And then that is going to be the best place to store it. So the answer to this question has two parts. So firstly, you need to think about the tool. So would you think that it needs to be stored in your file storage in Google Drive, for example, or would it be better stored in Canva where you created a design? Is it some finance information that's going to be on Xero or QuickBooks or whatever accounts information you use? And then the second part of that question, that's the easy part, by the way. The second part is creating that file structure. Okay, and then, which file within your file structure does that piece of information go and live in? And that's where it can easily get messy and confusing and complicated. So as I said to you, I've just moved over to a new system and I was feeling like things were already getting a bit messy, and I needed to sit down and think through that filing structure, because that's not something I'd really done before. Just, as I say, you create files because you've got something you need to file. And what I did, and this is a top tip if you like, is I actually went to ChatGPT, put it onto ChatGPT Work, and it's already linked up to my Google Drive, it's already linked up to my Dropbox. And so I asked it to go and have a look at my file structure in both of those. So my Dropbox is like years and years and years and years of filing, so you get a good idea from looking at that as to how my logic works for filing. And asked it to look at both of those and to come back and give me some feedback. So you could do the same if you use ChatGPT, if you used Claude, whichever Gemini, whichever AI you use. It's just a helpful speed up the system, give you some ideas that you might not have thought about. Ask it to look at your filing structure at the moment, give you some feedback on that. Ask for a suggested filing structure based on what it can see that you file. And then what I did when I got that back, I said, well, I quite like that, but let's say I didn't particularly like it. Can you offer me some alternatives? So it came back with 2 or 3 or 4 different alternatives for filing systems. And then you've got it's somewhere to start. You might not like any of them, or you might think, oh, well, that was a good idea, and I like that bit of that. But it gives you something to sort of start with. And pick the bits you like. Pick the bits that feel logical to you and workable to you. Remembering that question, in 6 months' time, if I needed this, where would I look first? Create a system that you think, well, yeah, that's the obvious place to put this. That's where I'll go and look for it in 6 months' time. And what you might find is that you get to a point where I got to, well, potentially there's a couple of different places I could put this piece of information, so that's going to get confusing. So you might need to set some rules for your system. So this is my filing structure, but these are the rules of how it works. So for example, with mine, there was a confusion over my marketing material and the way I'd set up my file structure. Where would I place some marketing material? So the rule that I've come up with to make that clear, and so I know where to file something and where to go back and find it in the future, is that if the marketing material is specifically related to a product, then it will live in the file for that product. If it's a more general piece of marketing, it will live in the general marketing folder. So that rule makes it easy for me to decide where to file it and to know where to look for it later on. So putting those two things together, the tools that you might need to use to file under and the filing structure, I just give you my example. Canva. I use Canva to do all my designs. So I have stuff filed in Canva, but I do also file them in my Google Drive as well. So what I've done is I've replicated the appropriate parts of my main filing system from the Google Drive files into Canva. So I'm not mixing my filing logic. I'm not having to think, well, okay, I filed it here on Google, but where have I filed it in Canva? It'll basically be in the same file, the same name of file. So once you've decided on a filing logic, wherever you can, replicate that logic across your different platforms that you're filing on. In Trello, I do want to have access from Trello to the files saved in my Google Drive, but rather than saving them again on Trello, I use the power up on Trello that links me to my Google Drive. So I'm just putting a link on Trello to the actual file on Google Drive, so I don't have to come up with a separate filing system for that. I have my account software where all my invoices are stored. And in AI, I have a filing system in there, but they don't have subfolders in ChatGPT. So it does have to be a bit different, but definitely I use folders, and I also have some of the key folders pinned. And again, your browser bookmarks, if you're like me, you've got loads of browsers bookmarked. And so again, I have I have a filing structure set up for those. And you can do subfolders in there, and that is probably one I need to go through and have a look at and tidy up a bit. Okay, so some top tips for you while you're trying to work out your filing structure. Think about the names of the documents that you're filing. So the one way to find files is to use the search tool. But the search tool is only going to be useful if you've got a sensible, obvious name for your file. So calling a file document 7 isn't going to work, or if you've downloaded a file and it's got some sort of gobbledygook name, you're never going to find that again. So make sure that you name or rename documents into a sensible format that you might think to search for, and then that will help you. If you're not sure where you filed it, that's an easy way to try and locate your document. Sorry, I've got my cat trying to make a nest on my knee. Use dates in file names if they're relevant. So if it's, for example, notes of meetings, then that's fine. Don't use them for the sake of it. Simple descriptive words. And I would say don't start this as a project on a Saturday morning thinking you're going to get it all done over the weekend, because you'll find that you don't, and everything ends up in even more of a mess. So don't immediately try to rearrange everything. Choose one area and try and sort that out first. So it might be that, and you've agreed with yourself how you're going to move forward. So it might be that you want to create that file structure. I would suggest maybe set out a new top level file with your business name, and then inside that create all your file structure, and then it's there. But then don't think you have to sit and move every single file into the right place. So when you're filing something new, you can file it into your new filing system, into the correct place. As you use an older document, then refile it into the correct place. If you want to spend half an hour sorting through some of your files, pick the problem area first. You know, what's causing you the most grief? Is it your client files? Is it your marketing? Is it your course notes? And take those and refile them into your new filing structure. Then have a break, do something else, come back to it a few days later and do another area. And I think that's the way to go. So use it, set up the structure and use it for your new filing and for documents that you reopen and reuse, and file them in the new place, and then gradually over time go through the back backlog, if you like, the older stuff, just a chunk at a time, putting them into the new system. And so gradually over a period of time, all of this setting up your business foundations is not something that you can sort of just sit down and do in 10 minutes. It's a longer term project that you just have to persevere with. Unfortunately, the end results is what you're going for. Okay, so I hope that's been helpful. I hope it's given you something to think about and some pointers in how to move forward with that, if that's an issue for you. If you're finding that your tasks and your ideas are also scattered and a bit all over the place, then if you haven't already got my free From Chaos to Calm starter kit, the link is in the description below, and you might find that a useful help as well. So next week we will be looking at the final foundation stone, which is maintenance, because even if you create the best systems, they're going to become messy again if you don't look after them. Thanks for watching, and if this has helped, please subscribe to my channel and please share with another overloaded solopreneur that you know who would really benefit from learning about systems to create themselves a much calmer business. Here's to taking back control, one small system at a time.